Copy that.
This is an audio slate for dive number H1929 UTC. Time is 14:22:23, excuse me. Mark.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending where you are in the world. We are just starting our descent down to the sea below, to the unnamed seamount number 7. And we should be down there in another 2, maybe 3 hours. In the meantime, please feel free to send any questions you have into chat, and we will answer them to the best of our ability. Understood. So in heavier seas, would you reduce the winch speed? Okay. Gotcha. So, specifically, does anyone know what our dive plan is, and could tell everybody at home what it is that we're going to be doing today?
Yeah, so our dive plan goals are very similar to the previous 2 dives, in that we're kind of we're just taking the same plan, copying it, pasting it to a lot of different seamounts in this area. We're interested in just trying to understand, the magnitude of the biodiversity in some of these sites, in terms of species of coral, sponges, associated animals, but also to collect geological samples that would help us understand the origins and formation of this seamount, potentially 100 million years ago or so, or more. There are some other minor objectives to use some new technologies like eDNA in context with high-density biological communities, collect some water samples from that, which will allow us to better analyze those profiles on shore, and as well, opportunistically, echinoderms like sea stars and brittle stars, sea cucumbers or sea urchins that might help us understand about deep sea food webs and how energy is transferred in the deep seamount environment. So our goal today is to start at pretty much similar depth to yesterday, around 2,400 meters, and work our way up to the summit, which is again very similar to yesterday, around 1,400 meters. So I think we should see quite similar organisms, perhaps in different proportions, depending on what the flow conditions and substrate characteristics are like. There's some indication from some of our benthic seafloor current models that there might be some accelerated currents in this area, which might yield either more or different coral community members. coral and sponge. So we'll be on the lookout for those comparisons.
So what do you think is going to be more common on here, coral or sponge?
It's always tough to tell with any certainty, but typically corals are more species rich, which means that there are just a greater number of species in the area uh, than sponges. But that doesn't necessarily always have to be the case. For example, on the first site, we saw, I would say, more sponges in the first, between 3,400 meters and maybe 2,500 meters. But very quickly, as you get shallower, it switches over to corals and in greater density.
So we know that coral gardens exist. Is there something that has like that same kind of scenario with sponges?
Not from the scientific literature yet, or at least not that I'm aware. No one's put numbers to that term, whatever it might be.
So last dive, we were able to get a bunch of samples, and it took a little bit to actually like unload them all and test them all. Do you think we're going to have that same sort of outcome today?
Probably very similar, yeah.
Do you know how any of those samples turned out? Were they good? Were they mediocre? Like, what kind of sample were they of good quality?
I, uh, I don't think we can really say about the rocks yet, but the biology turned out pretty good.
Oh,
Yeah, we found some samples, some bonus samples within our samples, some organisms that we didn't expect to um, stay on. Like sometimes in coral colonies, you can find other associated crustaceans and little critters like that.
or what were some of the bonus samples that we got?
There were a few amphipods in one of the coral colonies. Those are often impossible to see on the seafloor, so uh, we usually catch them back in the lab. What else? There were some interesting gut contents in one of the sea urchins. Calcified, some sort of calcified ossicle or something, or maybe coral skeleton. Difficult to tell, but we have some tools to help us um, better get a hold of what was in those stomach contents back on shore.
So Brandon, did you get to take a chance to look at all the rocks that we got yesterday?
We haven't cut them open yet, so
Hmm.
there's nothing to look at. They're all covered in manganese crust. Usually don't cut them open until like, I don't know, 18 hours after we get them, I guess.
Ah,
Because I'm just letting Kevin do it because he wants to do it.
fair enough. Did you get to find any nodules?
No, no nodules.
Dang.
Unless there would be for some, like we cut open, I think, like 2 or 3 of them. Like you would think they'd be nodules. And they were just basalt. Um, unless somehow they got mixed in with nodules, then yeah, I would expect we didn't get any. So we have yet to see any nodules on this whole expedition.
So then what classifies as a nodule versus just another rock?
It's got to be like mostly that manganese crust, rather than the ones we found were probably like 80% basalt, where we'd want to see way less.
And so why are getting nodules important?
People are studying their what environment they form in, um, as well as their elemental compositions.
So what environment do they form in usually?
That is the question, isn't it? Um, we thought they could form anywhere, but most commonly on the abyssal plain, which is not where we are. Um, if you think like east of Hawaii, but not near the fracture zones, are the most common spots, like 6,000 meters depth. But we thought maybe they could form where we are, shallower depths, but to no avail so far. Because they form out of the water column, so you'd think they'd be able to form anywhere.
Hmm. So is it more important for us to find nodules or basalts?
I mean, define importance, I guess.
I mean, like a higher priority.
Basalts is a higher priority, at least for the geologists on this expedition.
Hmm. Is that just because they can age it better, or it's more common?
It's the only thing we can age, um, at least for the aging methods we use. Can't age nodules. I mean, you could attempt to using some known parameters of how fast they grow, but in terms of the basalt, yeah, we need mostly unaltered basalt, because if it gets altered, um, the argon concentrations, which is what we use to date them, will change, and that's no good. So far, I think, let's see, the first dive we had one good basalt. Was that unnamed Seamount 3 or something? And then the Geo, maybe one, but it's questionable. And then yesterday, we'll see. The interesting one about the Geo, most of them were like heavily altered. Um, whether it was almost all crust or some kind of palagonite, which is like a sulfide alteration. There was one that had like half basalt, like literally half basalt, like this really gray, nice looking basalt, and then the other half was palagonite. It was like cut down the middle. So it was interesting looking. So maybe that other half, the half of basalt could be used. And then for this seamount, just gonna look for angular stuff. Probably not on my watch, but maybe for a little bit. Yeah, look for angular stuff to pick up. Hopefully we get some unaltered stuff. Expect them to be around 100 million years old. But the shape of the seamount is a little interesting. It's kind of got this elongate ridge that's like 30 to 40 kilometers long, northwest by southeast, which is what we expect because that's in line with like the Line Islands and the rest of Johnson Atoll. And then it's got sort of a smaller feature oriented the opposite direction, but a lot smaller. So I'm not sure if that's like a parasitic cone, which is just like more volcanism.
Looks like our headings are getting a little skewed here.
A new lava
You want me to
tube,
swing over so
basically.
we're tail to tail?
Can a rock be parasitic?
No, it's not. That's not. The parasitic is sort of like an how would I explain it? It's not explaining a rock. It's like explaining how the magma was acting. So you have like a main tube that the magma comes out of and it creates the main seamount. A parasitic cone would be if that tube sort of had an offset, or not an offset. It had a new tube open up away from it, I guess, but connected to it. Which could be what, and I think we're diving on that part. So it's possible
Comps are looking good.
the ages will be different, but
You're on mute.
So what are the other types of tubes? If there's parasitic, and then is there anything else?
for seamount environments, no, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's like non-volcanic tubes. We won't see those. Those are usually near subduction zones called like mud volcanoes. But yeah, no, there's usually just like a standard lava tube, magma tube. And then that could branch out sort of like a tree, you know. It has the main
Headings are actually quite...
the main stalk, or and then the branches branch out.
Zeus cam.
The magma can follow through, create multiple areas of melt. But and usually these tubes come from a magma chamber. That's, it could be, there's like a couple different options for where it could be, and it could be multiple tiers. So usually the magma chamber will sort of pillow or spread out at certain discontinuities within the Earth's interior. And from what we've seen, I think geophysical seismic data has showed us that at the barrier between the crust and the lithosphere, so that would be about 5 to 10 kilometers where we are, beneath the seafloor. You see the magma chamber sort of pillow out and spread out. So it's most likely from there is where the magma comes from. And then below that, at the upper and lower mantle, the lithosphere and the upper mantle kind of barrier, it spreads out there as well. So you can have multiple magma chambers. And then in general, that magma doesn't just exist in the mantle. There has to be some mechanism to create it. And our sort of proposed thing is that it's a mantle plume, multiple mantle plumes. Now extinct, no longer existing, but when these seamounts formed. And that's the fact that the ridge is oriented the same or
I'm gonna slow up a
similar
little bit
to
here.
the other ridges in this area, then that's a good thing because that means it's the alignment is there for
Okay.
the mantle plume. But alas, just theories, just hypotheses.
Gotcha.
Is there any other hypotheses that contradict that, or the most controversial one?
I don't know if I call it controversial, but yeah. Me being the novice geologist, I probably can explain this wrong, but there is some evidence of rejuvenated volcanism around 70 million years ago. Rejuvenated means the melt had ended and then somehow it got rejuvenated. Unclear why. It could be processes unrelated to the mantle plume, or it could be, yeah, most likely process unrelated, but we've seen in this region 70 MA. And yeah, so that could be the more controversial hypotheses. And like I said, it's unclear if the seamount we're on, the northeast by southwest trending kind of lobe. The way smaller one, it's only a few kilometers long. That one could be either the parasitic cone, which could be still be 100 MA, or it could be rejuvenated, or anything could be rejuvenated. Really, anything on the summits.
Here's a question from chat. To put my curiosity to rest, was that the first sample of the weird stock tunicate? I believe it was, from last dive. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, is that the one with the little balls on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But Steve is
indisposed right now.
yeah.
I'll ask him when he comes back up, Jason. Don't you worry.
I see you a lot, Jason. Thanks for tuning in.
He's one of my favorites.
Why watch a movie when you can watch EV Nautilus?
Exactly. It's hours at a time and it's free.
It's forever. It's 24 hours a day. Well, I think they reset the stream like every 24 hours or whatever, but it still counts.
We'll still take it. It is one of the coolest live streams I've been a part of, so. Although my opinion is way biased.
Speaking of cool live streams, have you seen GDQ before?
No.
Oh, really? Game's
No.
done quick? That's
No, I
really
haven't.
good live stream too that happens twice a year. It's
Is that speedrunning?
It is, yeah.
Oh,
Game's
nice.
done quick, yeah. They raise money for, I want to say the summer one is Doctors Without Borders, and then there's one in January that does it for cancer research. So it's really cool, and they raise like several $1 million. It's a great stream too.
Would you ever compete in it?
I don't know. I have a hard time playing a game that much. Like, I love playing games, but like, Hollow Knight, I couldn't imagine myself playing that over and over and over, hundreds of times.
Just to speedrun it?
Yeah, I'd rather play something new.
Fair enough. To answer that question in the chat, in current status, can you please put what the estimated time to the bottom is and what the starting depth to the bottom is? Unfortunately, I can't, although I do know it should take another 2-ish hours for us to reach the bottom. And our max depth is going to be about 2,300 meters.
That's where we're starting, right?
Yeah. That's where we're starting, and then we'll work our way up to that seamount, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm getting the thumbs up from Steve.
Oh, Steve, was that first sample was it a tunicate? The weird, had the weird lobes on it.
I think it was a sponge.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
from a
okay.
couple days ago. Right? A
was
couple
it a
days
couple
ago,
days
not.
ago?
I
Yeah.
think,
I can't
yeah,
remember. It's all blending, but
it's all blends together.
yeah.
So I have a question for everyone around here. When you're not on the UV Nautilus or not working, what do you do instead? Like as like a hobby or something just to keep yourself occupied that isn't this kind of work.
I mean, play tennis, play video games, read books, play board games. I mean, that's outside of, you know, doing graduate studies and stuff.
Work on samples, plan the next cruise.
It
You said
never ends.
outside, but if that's your whole life, Steve,
What?
I understand.
Pretty much these days.
I respect your dedication.
It's exciting.
Nice. Science never sleeps.
And neither does Steve.
Yeah, I
For
wish.
real though.
Yeah, well, I think I slept last night. I believe a few minutes everything went black, but I think I woke up right after that.
Yeah, outside of studying, sometimes I try to run, and sometimes I try to surf. And other than that, I like to sleep.
The old sleeping hobby.
Sleeping's a good one. I'm on board with the surfing too. I also like to mountain bike. Where I'm from, there's some really good trails.
Ooh.
Can never really get into mountain biking. I've tried, but I don't have the willpower.
Hurts my butt.
It does. Well, you got to ride for a few times repeatedly, and then you start to
Yeah.
get used to it. But the
I
first
can't
ride after
develop
a
the
while,
habit.
always hurts the butt.
Is the way to modify your mountain bike with like the big cushiony seat, or does it just have to be like the rider seat?
Well, it depends on how much weight you want to drag up the hill, but if you're willing to drag the weight up, you can throw a big cushiony seat on there.
What about you, Dan? Either one of you, what do you guys like to do outside of working for the UV Nautilus or working on ROV stuff?
Kind of the same vein of everyone else here. I love free diving, getting in the water as much as I can, and definitely climbing. A lot of bouldering. There's a lot of climbers on this ship. I wouldn't expected that, but there's quite a few. So really anything that gets me outdoors and kind of away from the city, but it's expected when you live in LA, I guess.
Now, do you prefer diving or climbing?
I don't know. That's a great question. If I haven't dove in a long time, now it's probably been about 6 months or so since I've been in the water, which is unheard of for me. But when I get back, is Southern California's dive season. It's kind of like late summer, early fall is when the water starts to get warmest. A lot of critters are shallower around the Channel Islands, so really easy to see there. But it's a good switch because in the summer it's really, really hot out and not a lot of people want to go out climbing, and better climbing conditions are usually in the winter months, so it's really easy to trade off around there. I like biking too. Never done mountain biking, but getting on the road bike every now and then is fun too.
What about you, Delta Dan? What do you like to do outside of working?
Looks to me like Delta Dan's preoccupied with some...
Oh, then we'll wait.
We're talking about what we're doing outside
Yeah,
of...
sorry, I was chasing a ground fault there.
No problem.
Just texting the group to let them know what the results were, so. It's our virtual red book.
So in the red book, Dan, I'm just going to record DC ground faults on DVO.
Yeah, Raj. Pressure. Yeah, so they're rubber molded connectors, and they seal better at depth because a lot of times, not all the time, but they're getting a squeeze, so the rubber seals a little better around the pin. So it's like a gold-plated pin with a little rubber coating on it, and that slides into a female receptacle that's the opposite. And the connectors get old, and the rubber, it doesn't seal as well. And
Got it right here. I'm
they become
already still ahead of you.
problematic. We really need to replace, it's the bulkhead on the DBL that needs to be replaced. But in order to do that, you have to open up the DBL and change the, internal connector, which is a bit of it's like changing the socket in your wall plug, right? And you gotta get into the machine, or into the device in this case. We're usually reluctant to do that unless so what we usually do is we resurface it, so we clean it really well and put some fresh silicone grease on it, some dielectric grease, and that'll usually alleviate the issue for a while. But we had, last year was really weird. Both of the USBL beacons, the bulkhead connector was giving us trouble, and we wound up in the end tearing both of those apart, replacing both of the bulkhead connections.
How long did that take?
It depends. The whole process actually went on for, it spanned several expeditions, because at first we didn't have the parts, so we had to order the parts and wait for them. And then we would switch one out and test it on a subsequent dive. But the actual process of tearing into it and replacing the connector is usually a couple hours.
So,
but then you have to bench test the device, in this case the USBL beacons, and make sure they're working after you put them back together, and then you need to put them on the vehicle and test them for a few dives before you're confident that you've rectified everything. And it's always kind of scary when you're doing a 1 atmosphere housing, replacing a penetrator. If you didn't do your O-ring just right or get everything just back together perfectly, it will fill up with seawater, and that'll be it for that device.
You get a hair in your O-ring.
Yeah, just a little
Really? Just that small of an error?
They don't compress,
Yeah,
so it ruins the point of the compression seal.
Eee.
yeah, literally an eyelash can cause a leak. The O-rings are they're dynamic. They live in a kind of a recess, if you will. You know, there's a little cutout for the O-ring, and there's some pretty tight tolerances for it, but the seawater actually enters and pushes against one side of the O-ring and pushes the whole thing up against the side of the cutout. So under pressure, the O-ring is not round. It's more of a kind of a blob pushed into the corner, and it's trying to extrude through, so there can't be any gap for it to squeeze out, or it will, kind of like the sea cucumber coming out of the bio box the other night.
Mm-hmm.
It will just squeeze out. And,
The one that floated out.
yeah, the one that was trying to escape.
So Steve, have we sampled any sea stars on our dives yet?
Not yet.
They're less of a priority than the other echinoderms, the
We-
sea cucumbers.
We haven't found them doing the thing that we need them to do for us.
You want to see the predation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we only did see one, and that was a coral that would have shattered. Is that right?
Yeah. We need the right kind of coral because we still
Ah.
need a certain volume of tissue, mass of tissue for the
Right.
experiment we're doing.
Right.
So even though we see predation, if it's not the right kind of thing, and it requires us to take up half the seafloor, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So for those of us that don't know at home, how many samples are we allowed to take?
We can take up to 20 rocks or geological samples, plus a certain number of push cores. We can take our full rack of Niskins, 6, and we can take 20 biology samples. No specific other treatments beyond that.
And so because we're technically in a sanctuary that's protected by the U.S. government, is there any other kind of protocols that we have to follow? Any other specific rules that we have to be aware of?
Yep. So in the monuments, you are only to manipulate what you're permitted to manipulate. So even if you see things like trash or debris on the seafloor, can't pick it up. Gotta leave things the way they are. And that goes for any of the units of the monument that we've been working in lately. There's no, for example, no dumping and no other activities like that from the surface either. All those regulations have to be observed. In some cases too, we can't just take every single one of the animals we find if we do need more than one. We have population level kind of thresholds we need to meet before we take more than one of a single species, if it is a non-colonial organism. What else? I think there's a no drone policy in the monuments too.
What?
Yeah. That might be for the bird situation.
The bird situation?
Yeah, the bird sanctuaries.
Hmm. Here's a question in chat. Is the Mongo arm have the same control as the Craft Predator arm? Or does the Mongo arm?
We don't refer to it by that derogatory term anymore. It is the port side arm, or you can say mango. That's more Hawaiian. But no, it doesn't. It's a rate controlled manipulator, where the 7 function is a spatially correspondent. They're both actually 7 functions.
Which one's easier to control, would you say?
Definitely the Predator, which is the craft arm. We tend to refer to things here by their manufacturer, so the one's craft and one's made by ISE. I forget it's, I'm having a mind blank on its model at the moment. But it's, the reason for the former term was it's a stupid arm versus a smart arm. That's where that nickname came from. So it doesn't have any brains in it. And there's no position sensors. It's just, it's basically a backhoe. Miniature backhoe with a gripper on it.
And sometimes...
Or we use it as an excavator.
Oh.
But it's got some serious power to it. So it's used, we really utilize it when we're doing like the cabled observatory. So we're grabbing onto stuff, and then you have the 5,500 pound weight of Hercules flapping in the breeze and being yarded on with thrusters, and while the port manip is grabbed onto a structure, subsea structure.
And we still use this arm?
Absolutely, yeah. It's typical of an ROV that's doing more kind of work, if you will. So this ROV was originally built to do archaeology, shipwreck stuff. So in that case, you're holding on with that manipulator while the other manipulator is doing the kind of fine dexterity work, picking up fragile bits. The plan is to eventually change both the manipulators out and have 7 function spatially correspondent manips on there. Because with this kind of work, pure science work, it would be beneficial to have 2 arms on there that are the same, for one.
I think you'd have 2 controllers. You can control them both at once, or would you just go with 1 controller and do one at a time?
Typically the science vehicles like Ropos and Sebastian have 2 controllers.
Just in case there's a need?
It's quite challenging to do. They used to make a controller with 2 arms on it, but it's challenging to use both of your hands. You typically will use one and then set that down and pick up the other one. But for me, the big benefit is having 2 of these topside units around, because they are electronic devices. There's a computer running in them. They have a display. They have a dynamic control arm that has little tiny wires and little tiny switches in it that can be problematic. So it's really nice to have 2, because if you're having a problem with one or you're troubleshooting, just swap them. And the same goes for the manipulator. If you have 2 of the same manipulator, then you only have to carry spares for one kind of the same spare will work on both manipulators. In this case, we have spares for the port side manipulator and the starboard side manipulator, and it's a lot of stuff to keep track of and keep updated and reorder from different vendors when you consume them.
So Dan, if you don't mind me asking, how did you get into the this sort of ROV field? Like, what steps did you have to take?
I worked for a manufacturer for many years. I started out with a company called Schilling. Back then it was called Schilling Development. It was a small R&D company. I was employee number 35 as an electronics technician and what they called a electromechanical assembly technician. So I was actually building manipulators. And after I figured out how to do that, I became their service technician. So I traveled around and fixed them when they were broken. And that obviously got me a little closer to the ROVs. And I would occasionally go out as an operator for as a ringer, if you will, for the manipulator. And then that led to operating the ROVs, and the same thing you guys experience here. I was very interested in the ROVs and all the shiny bits that were on them. And then that company, it grew exponentially over the years, and we had the bright idea that we could start making ROVs, which we did. And we made a couple prototypes, but then we sold the first 4 to a company called Canyon Offshore. And I was spending a significant amount of time babysitting those guys, so I was heavily involved in the design, build, test, maintenance, upgrades, and I went to the dark side, as they call it, finally. I was spending a couple hundred days a year offshore and then coming back to a 60-hour-a-week job. And my wife was ready to divorce me. In fact, quit her job and moved out of the city back to the country, and came home one day and there was a note on the counter. It said, I hate you, I hate Sacramento, I hate my job. I've quit my job, I've moved out of Sacramento back to Lake Tahoe. If you want to talk to me again, call this number. And there was a card sitting there for to call a real estate agent to list the house for sale.
Wow.
So I took the letter into my boss and showed it to my boss, and I said, I have a tough decision to make. You know, I love my job, but I love my wife. And at that time, it wasn't in the cards to work remotely. A big part of the job was, being there at the shop and interfacing with the engineers and fixing broken parts. I see that. Tilt it up a bit. Anyways, I went to work for that company and had a really just fantastic time. Loved it. Was doing 220 days a year offshore with them in the commercial world, and mostly construction. So it's very, very challenging work. 2 ROVs in the water, crane wires in the water, putting big giant things on and off the seabed. But what's that? Oh. Tilt it. Do you tilt it up and down a bit?
Yeah, I gave it a tilt. It's up pretty level right now.
Yeah.
No, I know it was doing some flickering for a little while,
Yeah, I
right
saw
when we
that.
hit
That's typically the fiber.
1,500 meters.
You can power cycle it, but
I tried.
it's not very promising. Great, so we have no altimeter and we're blind. What else could possibly. I shouldn't even say
No,
that.
don't say that.
Knock wood, knock wood.
Our delta's at 20, just FYI.
Yeah, that's all right. Sorry for the long story there, but
No, that was great.
No, it's great.
I'm
the
getting,
re-
I'm
the
getting
rest of the
flickers on
story.
the rest of Atalanta as well, actually.
Yeah, could go lights out here soon.
Delta's at 2-2.
Yeah, we're losing telemetry to Argus. That's what's happening. Those comps are still good. Oh, the comps on Argus.
Yeah, comps.
I saw them.
They were looking good, yeah. Herc's looking good too.
We're not losing telemetry to Argus. It's sitting on deck. We're losing telemetry to Atalanta.
Yeah, sorry.
So we've lost the sonar.
Yeah.
That's a high bandwidth device.
Yep.
The HD camera was a high bandwidth device, and then
The SD cams are starting to go
the
too.
last one is the rest of them. So I have a red light here on the. If you
Yeah.
make a note in the log that Atalanta is dead, Jim.
1,600 meters. Atlanta is dead.
Atlanta, no.
That could be a showstopper.
So what's the protocol if when Atlanta goes completely dead?
It's a bit of a dealer's choice there. I'll do some troubleshooting here. We could press on, but that's likely that will abort the dive. You want to come all stop on the winch there for me?
I'll stop on winch.
To answer that question in the chat, does the bridge and data lab also have different watch shifts? They actually run on the same watch shifts that we do. So 4 to 8,
8 to 12.
8 to 12, yeah, I
12
can
to
math,
4.
12 to 4, and then so on and so forth. So we're usually talking to the same people up in the bridge and data lab.
All right, winch is stopped.
Right there. Let's bring up the telemetry, the fiber thingy there on the engineering computer.
On the engineering computer, you want the...
Use your mouse, the
yeah,
focal
yeah.
diagnostic software.
This one? No, that's Hercules.
Yeah, focal will be the...
This one? There we go.
Yeah.
Another question in chat. What are you hoping to see on today's expedition? Any specific creatures that would make your day?
No receive power. No power, Jim.
What I'm hoping to see on today's expedition is Atlanta
if
come back
you-
online.
You have to... I'm going to go off comms here. I'm going to step behind the console and
Roger that.
do what we call poke it. We need to... So the delta number is not correct at the moment?
Agreed. I hope not. Yeah.
No, so...
Oh,
You got me in the butt cam there.
We're
Yeah.
not
Yeah, so you
shallow
want to
enough.
keep an eye on that while I'm
I don't
not
even-
watching?
Okay, will do.
nah, we're not.
Oh, interesting.
So, what I'm gonna just check the fiber, but I see there that there's no light coming up from it, so
But it's got to be within Atalanta because Hercules is still getting...
doesn't have to be, but that's the first place to look.
I'd like to see another Chaunacops.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice to see another Chaunacops. They're weird. I like them. I kind of want to see another slime star.
Me too.
I wouldn't mind seeing those rolling snails again.
Ah, yeah. Those are always funny to watch. I can only imagine what if it could talk, what it'd be saying.
I think it's more interesting too, like maybe not a specific organism, but seeing them do things we don't expect. So like, I don't know, seeing a fish like bite something or something like that.
Seeing a slime star slime somebody.
Right. See some megafauna.
Ooh. Oh, gross.
Something over a meter long. Can't go wrong. I guess coral are often over a meter long, so.
Are rocks over a meter long too?
A lot longer than that.
It's actually an interesting question. How long, or not how long, how much do these rocks on average usually weigh?
So the only way to know that is to know their density, right? And then you can look at their volume, and then you'll know the. I want to say it's 2.67 grams per cubic centimeter. Let me look up basalt density. Oh, it's 3 grams per cubic centimeter. I was close.
Mm.
So, you know, if you have a huge rock, it's going to weigh a lot, obviously, but now we know if we have the volume.
So what's the heaviest rock we found so far?
I don't know, that one was like 15, 20 pounds.
Let's call it 20. And the lightest rock that we found so far?
I mean, do you count the fake nodules?
Sure.
Like 1/10 of a pound?
Cool.
You asked.
I'll take it. Okay. So on average, we have about 1 pound per rock.
No, not this. On average, you have 1 pound per rock?
Or each rock is 1 pound.
Is that how the average works?
Yep. According to my math, which is never wrong. 1 pound is your average rock weight.
What is 20 pounds in grams?
A lot of grams.
It's 9,000 grams. So if you have 9,000 divided by 3, I think. So the volume of that 20-pound rock was around 3,000 cubic centimeters. But I can't think in centimeters because I'm American, so we need to do that in feet.
So 0.1 cubic feet.
Not the biggest rock, but we can't exactly grab huge rocks. I didn't realize it yeah, because I guess you cube it. 3,000 cubic centimeters is 0.1 cubic feet. It's a big difference. Or it sounds like a big difference, but obviously the same thing. Goblin shark would be nice. Oh, you're totally right, Jason. That would be super cool. Those things are hideous, but so cool looking.
Are we deep enough for them? I thought they were deeper.
I don't know.
They're like 4,000, 5,000 to 5,000 meters.
I don't know. Let's see what Google has to say.
Yeah.
Well, it says that's their maximum depth. I don't know. Let me see what the minimum depth is. Oh, well, it just said the same thing twice.
Yeah.
Oh, depth of 1,300. Yeah,
okay.
so we could see them.
We could. It's a possibility.
Oh, we're idiots. That's in feet. It was 1,300 the whole time.
Okay, we're smart.
Hey, Steve?
Yes.
We're gonna have to abort, buddy. Sorry.
All right.
We still have some light coming up, but I don't know. It's likely just, hopefully just a fiber issue that we can resolve quickly, but I'm wildly guessing there. But I don't know for sure, so in the interest of caution and not knowing if the seawater has gotten into
Yeah.
other way, that way, We're gonna abort and recover the deck.
All right.
And it's your fun part of the job to notify the cheese.
Yay!
I'm sorry. See what speed I can get here on. Yeah, let's start. What depth are we at? All right.
Yeah, we're gonna wait for a little bit.
Yeah, right. We'll come up at 20 meters a minute, and we are at whatever depth, so whatever that works out to be. 20 meters a minute. Yeah, we should be able to make 20.
Lightning fast.
What am I making? Do I really need to drop the weights? Yeah, I need to drop them. So what you want to keep an eye on now is the that butt cam, since we don't have the delta or the sonar, one or the other. So you'll drop the anoint. Can you put that on the? Well, I want to see that rope there. That's better.
Answer the question in the chat. Are you folks aborting this dive? Unfortunately, yes. We're having some technical difficulties with some of our ROVs, so we're going to bring them up to the surface, do a little bit of troubleshooting, and then hopefully put them back in the water later today.
Okay, I gotta get around here. Am I coming around? Yeah, I'm coming. Ah, you worked it out. So that's a good one to know, eh? Because if all the lights go dark, or we part the tether, oh, that's a good one to know. Me neither, I just push buttons until it submits.
So basically, even though we have we can't receive from Atalanta, or we can't send to Atalanta, are you still got the USBL going? Like, how does that work?
Sorry, yeah, so what just happened there, we lost telemetry to Atalanta.
Yep.
The comps were still good when we got the flashy on the camera.
Yep.
So I got just the last look there and I saw that those were good, which was a relief. Then the next, and the failure mode was you saw the high definition video start to flicker, which is, that's like a traditional fiber gradual failure. And that's a high bandwidth device.
Yep.
And the next high bandwidth device that we run at ludicrous speed is our Mesotech sonar. So those two devices went,
Black.
they went black, yeah. They lost telemetry. And right about then I started seeing the overall telemetry to the vehicle light blink on and off.
Roger.
And that's when we pulled up the fiber optic diagnostic software. So we monitor the power that we receive top side and bottom side from the multiplexer system. So there's a laser on each side that's shooting light through the fiber, through 7 kilometers of fiber. And we typically receive in the teens dBm, decibels in milliwatts, which is like a fraction of what you have with your cat laser pointer. Anyways, so the next step was I went behind the console and unplugged the fiber from the multiplexer unit and cleaned it with a special cleaner. And then I put a meter on it, and I'm reading the minus 37 dBm, which is
very low.
Yeah, that indicates that some light is coming through, so that's a good thing. That tells us that we still have some, there's
minus 37 dBm is like nothing.
Yeah, the multiplexer will fail to communicate around minus 28. When it can get some. It can hear a little bit in the high 20s, but typically we like to see it in the teens some way. So what that tells me is the power is okay to Atalanta. We didn't see any ground faults, but we don't really know for sure because we don't have telemetry to it, so we can't do any further diagnostics. Hopefully it's just a fiber issue, right? So it's a little delicate glass fiber and it's got, there's half a dozen connections between Atalanta and that rack where I just looked at it. And then, so after that, the transponder that the USBL beacon that's on both Atalanta and Hercules has batteries in it. And the way we typically run that is the Sonardyne head sends a signal down through the telemetry system to the beacon itself and tells the beacon to chirp. And then the topside head, it's talking to the topside head through the ROV telemetry system, so the topside knows when to receive, when to listen for that signal.
We can bypass that.
Yeah, so it's only going one way. But it has batteries in the transponder, so if you don't have that telemetry to the transponder, to the head, or between the head and the beacon, you can put it in transponder mode. So in that mode, it acoustically listens, and it hears a chirp from the USBL head,
chirps back,
and then it said, "Aha, I've heard the chirp," and I'll reply back. So now it's not as optimal, especially for deep water, because the sound has to travel both ways, so it's not as accurate. So, but we can still get position off the beacon. So that's how we do when we're like doing you know, a mooring or something like that subsea,
Right.
those beacons run off of a battery. So if the vehicles go dark, we can swap over and we still know where
Still
they
get
are.
a fix, yeah.
But we don't know exactly what's wrong, so it's, you know, there's dozens of nightmare scenarios that are running through my head right now, so the best thing to do is to get it back on deck and have a look.
Copy that.
If we would have seen some ground fault issues, I would probably shut down the high voltage to it, because there's some risk if there's, for example, seawater in the J-box, and we continue to
Understood.
have
Fry some stuff.
high voltage to it. Yeah, we're making a lot more work for ourselves.
Yes. But the only ground fault we did see was the DVL and Herc.
Yeah, correct. And that's just a DC ground fault, so that's a...
Yeah, okay.
I wonder if Josh has got his phone silenced. You got a hold of Allison, did you, Steve? Or is he off?
What ballast?
I'm gonna go off SPL for a minute, see if I can wake my boss up.
Yeah. Should I slow her down a little bit here? Getting up there. You all right? Coming down to 20.
Yeah, 20 meters a minute. Agonizingly slow.
Agonizing. Ay, ay, ay.
As long as, yeah, I just want to keep the...
Yep.
I want to be able to see the light.
It's a pretty moon outside right now.
Oh. I might be out there enjoying it soon.
Silver lining, silver
Covered
lining.
in mineral oil and...
You know what it was?
What's that?
Should have oiled the tiki.
Ah, yeah. Tiki oil failure.
You know, I had grand plans to wake up before the launch, and
I
then
did
something
too.
happened, and I just didn't.
I hit my snooze button like twice, which is means I'm overly tired. Usually I boing wide awake and all excited to dive. I was like, oh, I was so sleeping so good. That's typical day 7. Your body hasn't quite adjusted to the lack of sleep yet. By the time I get home, I won't be able to sleep for more than 4 to 6 hours
At
for
a time,
like
yeah.
a week or two, yeah.
Does the Atalanta Paro have a similar ability to give us depth readings despite lack of telemetry? At least give us a delta?
The USBL, the only battery-powered devices on the vehicle are the USBL beacons.
Suppose that makes sense.
But they do have depth sensors in them, obviously. But they can also tell what the depth is by the trip time for the...
So they're just not programmed into the delta computation.
I believe they have depth sensors in them. I could be in error there. Some types of beacons do, like compats. For the long line stuff, they have to be more accurate. And I could be off there too. When we do metrology, as we call it, we use both a depth sensor and a beacon, several beacons.
Oh, okay. I wonder what it'll be for breakfast this morning.
I think it's a crepe day.
Ooh, perfect.
Were you craving something?
Yes.
What do you put on your crepe?
I think this one I'm gonna go for banana
Ooh.
and Nutella and bacon and the
You
crepe
put bacon on your crepes, like a savory kind of thing?
inside.
Huh.
Now then I add syrup.
Smart.
You're talking about the dried chip banana things they have on
No. Oh, we're not gonna have any fresh bananas, are we?
there? No.
They all went into that
they
banana
usually-
cake.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it'll be a Nutella bacon kind of crepe.
Sometimes that's okay.
Nutella and bacon.
Bacon is really good inside of crepes.
It's
Wow.
it's a sweet and savory crepe.
Bacon crepe, sure.
Why not?
Once you add the syrup, it's just sweet, sweet. I haven't made many savory crepes, to be honest.
Do you like savory crepes, or are you more kind of a sweet crepe kind of guy?
I feel like when I have the chance to eat a crepe, I just load it up with sweets.
Yeah, it's usually the MO.
I'm not against savory crepes, but I mean, it's not every day you get to have a big sweet crepe for breakfast.
That's true. Except here, it's every other day.
Touche. Also really been liking their French toast.
Oh yes, French toast is a daily occurrence here on the EV Nautilus.
It's wonderful too. It's
It
like
is.
good bread.
It's really good.
Yeah. I put some of that jelly on it.
Maple syrup. Not real maple.
No, it's not real maple syrup.
But it's close enough.
How is it not real maple syrup? Is it just like a knockoff, or?
Well, we
feel like
live in
it's
the
just-
Pacific Northwest. We're spoiled.
Ah. Gibson knows true maple syrup as a maple syrup in himself.
It's in my blood. That stuff is expensive.
It is.
It really,
Really?
is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, Costco has really good.
Yeah,
Big-
big jugs for a
yeah.
decent price, yeah.
Yeah.
You get like a 1 liter or less at the grocery store. It's gonna run you like $20-something more.
Yeah.
Why is it so expensive?
Oh, it's a labor of love. You know, why is any food so expensive these days?
Inflation.
Oh, look at that little jelly. And the Zeus there.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same with honey, I guess, you know. If you buy the good honey, it's spendy.
Yeah, it's spendy.
Farmers markets.
Someone brought some lilikoi honey on board. Put that
Oh,
on my
yeah.
toast this morning.
I saw that.
I think
Wow, how
Oku
do you
brought
like
that.
it?
I loved it.
Nice.
I've been a big fan of lilikoi since I had it on my pizza a month ago.
Ooh,
You had it on your pizza?
Oh man, it was so good.
I've
Honey
never
on
thought about
pizza.
doing that.
No, it wasn't honey. It was more of like a savory jelly. Think like a red pepper jelly, but it's like a little sweeter and a little more runny.
Oh, yeah.
Put it on a Kahlua pork and pineapple pizza from Outrigger Pizza on Maui. Oh wow,
Wow.
Ooh.
I'm hungry.
Following up on a previous conversation, I think we need to discuss what pizza is.
Ah, yes.
Oh, yeah.
What is pizza, Steve?
Please tell us the indescript or the indescript.
We'll take this offline. I don't want to.
Nah,
I
come
don't
on.
want it to get violent here.
Steve, I really do want to try your home cooked pizza.
I would be happy to cook pizza for everyone on this ship.
So.
You can ask the cooks.
Hey, sorry not to change the subject. You
No.
were successful rousting Allison, were you, Steve?
Yeah, I knocked on the door.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
She has some messages in her expedition leader phone too.
1,000 meters, 20 meters a minute.
We rousted the other usual suspects as well, Josh and Rennie.
Rennie's aware. Who else?
50 minutes till surface.
Tim's awake.
50, 15.
I can go
5-0.
down on. I can
Oh,
go
no.
down on deck.
Josh is in here.
No, yeah, I knocked on Rennie's door and
Oh.
Rennie said he'd let Josh know as well.
Oh, the department chiefs will be cracking the whip.
Steve, I'll have you know this pizza
Oh,
that I'm
dude, what
talking
about Drew? Does anyone give him a call?
Drew, we can roust at 500.
Okay.
Close to.
That's our protocol. Well, a surprise roust at 500. But he'll be used to that. Let him get just into that REM sleep. And
So hungry I'm cracking into these saltine crackers.
Yeah, mine's yelling at me too.
Is it right?
Where'd you get saltines?
He's been stashing them in his cabin.
I
or his
know.
little
He's putting them
drawer.
in his hat. That's how he's bringing them in here.
Now, do you eat the saltines whole, or do you take your time on them?
Oh man, I'd take my time. My mouth would be so dry if I ate a whole
I
one.
ate them whole, yeah. It
Wow.
makes it such a mess if you don't.
Really?
Yeah, you getting crumbs everywhere.
Doing okay.
Like a standard saltine, the square shaped one?
No,
Yeah, that's what I
yeah.
was thinking.
Okay.
I meant like the ones that are in the galley.
Yeah.
Aren't those also squishy?
No.
Oh, I don't. What are those ones? Are they
don't
like
know. They're just
rectangular?
circles.
They're just teens, not a lot of salt on them.
There's some salt. I was feeling
Teens?
seasick. I
Yep.
gotta. I ate
Not like
these.
that.
Don't take it out of
Don't
context.
take that out of context, guys, please.
Yeah, my 7-day sleep average is
Oh,
5 hours
jeez,
and
look at the-
26 minutes.
Just goes off a precipice.
That's healthy.
I like to put hot sauce on my saltine and
You
eat
need
it.
to sleep.
Really?
Yeah.
I like Nutella or peanut butter.
Really?
Yeah, you know. I would suggest peanut butter for you.
Nutella
Huh.
would be great on this cracker.
Nutella on saltines.
Yeah,
funny,
No,
sweet,
man.
salty.
You gotta put Tapatio or something on there.
Interesting.
We don't
Never
have any
tried
Tapatio
that.
Tapatio
on
on
the
a
ship.
saltine.
Valentina.
Really good.
Oh, but we do have tahine.
No,
We
no,
do
no,
have
no, not
9
tahini.
hour-
You need
10 hour
sauce.
sleep
Ah, I see, I see.
to half of that. It's like, it's so sad.
Cholula. Any kind of red sauce.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Except Tabasco.
Yeah,
Don't use
Tabasco's
Tabasco.
trash, but
Would anybody else
Oh,
like
don't
a
trash
cracker?
the Tabasco.
Tabasco's
okay?
trash.
All right.
It's such a strong, like vinegary.
Yeah, it's just
Flavor.
got too much vinegar
I
in
don't
it.
know, it adds so much spice though.
Yeah, I suppose, but I like flavor with my spice.
You know, it's weird because spicy originally just meant flavorful, and now it means hot.
What is this originally?
What do you mean?
Like, what is originally like?
Oh,
10,000 years ago?
As
or-
in, well, the definition of spicy is full of spice, not hot.
Mm. Spices.
Oh, I want to know
Yes.
what kind of pizza Steve's cooking.
I know he buried the lead. I suppose.
You just want to
No, I
reveal the
just
secrets.
said we need to have a conversation about it.
Okay, we're ready. We have 50 minutes to
We're
go.
gonna
We
have a
have
sit
nothing
down.
but time and blue
Very
water.
good.
I think you have to make the pizza,
45
and
minutes.
then we can all
Experience
Ah,
it.
yes.
Yeah.
judge
Give us
if
an
it's
example.
We're definitely hyping this up
acceptable.
way too high. I
Yeah.
mean, I trust your culinary ability, but
I'll put together some materials that I might need, and we'll see.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. I feel like, and Steve, maybe this is not what you're thinking, but some pizzas you just need a really good crust and dough, and like you could put just about like a little, barely anything on it, and it's fantastic.
That's really important. Yeah. Yeah.
The tomato paste makes it.
nah, man, just get a little Caesar's pizza. It's fine. It's
Slander.
functional.
I think that's
You're a
chemically
tomato.
closer to plastic.
Tomato connoisseur making tomato paste or stewed tomatoes. We make a lot of tomatoes every year from the garden.
Homemade would be so good.
It's just, yeah, I have to go back to store-bought stuff when we run out, and it's like, ugh.
The dough and crust fermentation has always been the most challenging part for me, and
Yeah.
it's crazy to think about because it's more chemistry than cooking, because you have to adjust it for the time of year, the humidity, the temperature, what kind of rise you want to have, how complex you want the flavors to be.
Wow.
Stay in school, kids, then you can learn to make the perfect pizza.
Yep.
When you say adjust it, are you like adjusting the proportions of different ingredients, or are you adjusting
Yeah.
the climate it's staying in?
Well, you can do both, right? You can do like a cold fermentation in the fridge, which produces a slower rise but more complex flavors over time. Or you can do like a room temperature. You have to adjust the moisture level for the humidity of the environment.
Which one's your favorite one to do?
Favorite pizza?
Or preferred method of dough making?
I like just the room temperature rise. I mean, I think it it makes a softer, more pillowy dough. You don't really get the gluten development though. That is really useful for like a stretchy pizza. But yeah, I like soft. Always double zero flour. None of this bread flour or all-purpose nonsense.
Huh.
What kind of flour do you use?
Double zero.
Double
This is
zero.
intense.
Is that semolina? Or
Is that one specifically for like
It's a
bread making,
grind.
dough making?
It's a grind size.
He said he didn't have any hobbies outside expeditions.
Except his pizza making skills.
And how long does it take to make a pizza usually, like on average?
Well, usually for a typical home oven, you want the heat to be as high as possible. So for most of commercial home ovens, it's around 500 degrees F, or whatever the highest temperature you can get to without burning down your house. And it takes about 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe, depending on what you're cooking on. Some people prefer pizza steel. Some people prefer pizza stones.
Pizza steels?
Yeah, it's basically a big slab of steel.
Ah, okay.
It's like kind of like a kiln, but different. Except just made of steel.
Yeah, so I mean, some people have outdoor pizza ovens, but I think those are pretty ineffective at making what I'm most interested in eating.
And so how long does it take to prep everything before you cook it?
So I usually start 2 or 3 days in advance.
Wow.
Oh.
And yeah, I mean, I don't use anything fancy for the tomatoes. Just canned San Marzano tomatoes. It's the best.
Any
Crushed
spices
or
in there?
whole, and then hand crush them.
Ooh.
Some oregano, olive oil, salt, crushed red peppers, and then change the cheese as needed.
Oh, sounds delicious.
We're a big anchovy fan in my house.
Really,
I'm down with that.
anchovies?
Yeah.
I've never tried anchovies before, actually.
They're good. On pizza,
Sometimes.
at least.
It's like umami bomb.
What type of cheese do you usually use? Mozzarella or feta or?
No, I mean, I always start with like really high quality, grated Parmesan cheese. Sometimes pecorino. But my favorite pizzas don't really include mozzarella usually, because they kind of cover the flavor of the tomatoes. Now I'm getting hungry. Thanks a lot, guys.
Now I want pizza for breakfast.
I was already
I
hungry
usually do
before we
pizzas
started.
once every other week or so at my house.
Ooh.
And just for the record, Steve, you're not a deep dish guy, right?
What did you say? You're talking about pizza?
Yeah, we're talking about pizza, not pie.
No.
I think traditional pizza is more like tomato, some nice tomato sauce and a little bit of cheese on a piece of cardboard.
Thin.
Yeah.
Get it for the buck on the corner.
I didn't realize we're so high class here.
We're talking about Little Caesars.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
Ooh,
a.
a ctenophore.
One of those little sparkly guys.
What's it called, Lily?
Ctenophore?
Ctenophore,
Is that right?
right.
Ctenophore.
Ctenophore.
Was that a ctenophore, Steve?
Voracious.
Was that a ctenophore?
Voracious
Oh, I wasn't
ocean
paying attention
predator.
to the water column.
It's like a little orange thing with all these little sparkly lights.
Probably, yep.
Nice.
We're too busy daydreaming about food.
Pizza.
Yeah, this pizza that I was talking about that had the lilacoid jelly on it, it came from a food truck, but the food truck had a stone, like wood-fired oven.
Oh,
Wow.
I love those.
Pretty cool, eh?
That's sick.
It was on diners, drive-ins, and Dash.
And Dash.
I think it's dives, isn't it?
Dives.
Oh, that's it.
Diners,
I
drive-ins,
was
and Dash.
Dives.
Canadian version we're
stereo.
not
I was
aware of.
thinking Dine and Dash.
It doesn't get hot enough. Gibson.
Hey?
The wood oven.
It doesn't?
I don't know. Something Steve would say.
Sure it does.
I think
know.
it's the,
Yeah.
isn't that like the best way to do it? Stone.
I think it's the evenness of the heat in the oven that's most important.
You can
I mean, you
forge
can have
steel
like
with a wood-fired oven.
hot zones and cool zones. But for example, like in, you know, where I grew up, New Haven style pizza in Connecticut uses coal traditionally, coal-fired ovens, which produces a different like smokiness flavor profile than wood or electric.
Now I gotta check myself and see if that was a wood-fired oven or what it was.
I think it was like one of those brick wood ovens, and they use like Chiave wood.
It wasn't brick though. It was like this sculpted stone.
Huh.
We've been experimenting with the Traeger on the pizza stone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, quite good, especially if you like a lot of veggies on your pizza.
Vegetables on your pizza?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay, I guess. Usually you have it to the side.
Ah, man, you put peppers and mushrooms on there.
But are those really vegetables?
Very good.
Like bell
Yes,
peppers?
they are vegetables.
I thought mushrooms were their own different subsection.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair, but they have a
When Can
vegetable,
we start streaming?
Yeah.
We can do 0.3.
a vegetable
have-
nature.
It's
Yeah, they
coming
have,
on,
you
I
know,
don't wanna come all the way
minerals
around it.
and vitamins like vegetables,
Being
right?
under the boat there.
I mean,
Can mushrooms
Make
be
a note of
considered
the,
rocks if they have
current.
minerals in them?
like, you know,
Good one.
nutritional minerals.
1.1.
Is that the same thing as minerals and rocks?
Yeah, it is actually.
What?
Really?
No,
Wow.
it's not. Come on. Yes, we're eating feldspar and
I'm losing the battle here. It's trying to
and
swing me around, and
olivine.
I'm
Hey, sometimes we have iron though.
lateraling against it
Yeah,
quite
but-
hard.
Rocks, though.
Iron. Yeah, I mean, it's in minerals, but usually it's not native iron.
Native iron?
But we had
Yeah, so just iron.
1.1
Like nothing
on the valve
attached.
there for current before he started. So
I see, I
I think
see.
you can find it, but usually it's iron oxide,
Okay.
which is hematite.
Hematite.
I actually have no idea what that, like how the mineral, food mineral is. Like, is it iron oxide? Or is it just iron native? I don't think it's iron native, but I could be wrong.
I think it sounds right.
Is it? Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that's cool.
That does look cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think they use Chiave. Yeah, I think they use Chiave wood in the fire.
what kind of wood
That's
do
so
they
good.
use?
Chiave, I think.
So, is there like special properties with Cave wood, or is it just what's available?
I mean, there's like a special smoky flavor that I think when I eat meals that were on Chiave wood fires. It produces like this little, oh wow. It produces this little like smoky flavor,
Cool setup.
and it's like using like special wood whenever you do like a special barbecue or whatever, like cedar wood or whatever wood. And it's also it's like an invasive species on a lot of islands, like on Maui. There's like a lot of Chiave trees, so you just chop them down, use the wood for fires.
There you go.
Smart.
Get rid of those things. Use them for good.
Yeah.
Yeah, where are Cave trees originally? How do you spell it?
Kiawe.
Kiawe.
That's not how you spell origin.
Close enough.
Origine. Originates from Bolivia.
So from South America is where Kiawe. Oh, it got introduced to the Hawaiian Islands in 1828,
Ooh.
according to
According to Google.
Wikipedia,
1828.
and they're still there.
Still
Yep.
cooking.
It's cool you can use it for firewood. We
Yeah.
have a Scotch broom is really invasive on Vancouver Island and much of BC.
How do you spell that one?
It's Scotch, like Scotch, and then broom, like a sweeping broom.
Okay.
Scotch broom. It's like this green, crazy, low plant with yellow flowers, and it just takes over, and it's pretty
burn it?
gross. It's pretty
You
gross.
actually burn it?
Nah, you can't really. I mean, you do burn it to get rid of it, but it doesn't burn well.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
gonna say,
It looks very green.
Yeah, it's not something you can just turn, stoke a fire with.
Dang.
it makes really cool handles. If you ever, the bigger pieces have like a dark center. If you dry them and cut them in half and polish them up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like handles for like a blade?
Oh, if you're whatever wood handles you're making,
Ah.
yeah, for a blade or utensil or
Cool.
kind of bushcrafty stuff.
Ooh, wow.
So
Yeah, there's
really,
lots of broom cleanup projects.
really hard wood. But yeah, it is invasive. We have it all over the property.
There's a
Kids
plant.
like to chop it down and make stuff out of it.
There's a plant down south called kudzu, which is, yeah, it's a super, super invasive plant that just grows. It grows over trees and basically suffocates them.
Oh,
And the only way that they've figured out how to really get rid of it is with cows.
cows.
Yes, so farmers bring their entire livestock over and just start grazing over this, like, mountainous kudzu that comes over trees and stuff. It's a little
Wow.
surreal, but
Is it working?
apparently, yeah, it's the only true way to get rid of it. It's with
Wow.
livestock.
Go cows, go.
Go cows, go.
I was surprised at how many cows I saw when we drove up to Haleakala.
Ah, yes.
It was just cow, like, and there's a lot of elevation there, and they just kind of kept going.
Yeah, and they have free range
gonna-
of
I think
pretty
we're gonna
much
have to
all over
stream a
that
little faster.
lower part of the slope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's become 2.5. See if that helps.
Just billions of cows out there eating up all the grass.
Yep.
And so we're just trying to get Atalanta out behind.
Trying to get Herc out behind.
Okay.
There, it was spinning us around the other way on
My
when we came through.
my
on the way
dad's
down.
friend owns a farm outside Las
Last time
Vegas.
we came down, we wound up
He
doing a
raises
full
cows.
360.
Oh, nice.
And he butchered one recently, and we got like 500 pounds of beef.
Just,
Oh.
That's some
500
high
pounds of
quality
beef?
meat.
Wow.
Best beef I've ever had.
I'm.
And I don't actually feel that bad
There's a
eating
small
it,
chance
unlike
that,
other
you
beef.
know, one fiber went. the
Because,
other one
you know, it was an
could.
old cow, like,
So
and it
the
lived a
other
long
legs would go
time, and it
up,
wasn't, you know, it was free grazer or whatever.
Oh.
And he tasted good.
Yeah.
How did you
Yeah.
cook
Went
it,
to
Brandon?
Vietnamese.
Well, there's multiple, you know, the T-bones just on a grill,
Ooh.
and then also had some roast, some stew.
Who?
Oh, you did it all. We are hungry.
Yeah.
We're suffering a little bit over
That's a
here.
good description.
It's curious. It's not coming around though.
Ideally, you want to be on the port side or right off the stern.
Ideally, we want to be directly astern.
Okay.
Everything in a line.
And then there was also ground beef too that we made, and we used that in the spaghetti.
Oh,
so
that's
good.
the best.
It's such a like sweet and rich flavor the beef had. It was so nice.
Something about homegrown
Port
beef.
vertical, starboard vertical. Those are my thrusting up. It's a positive number there. Or negative.
It's also a little bit more
percentage, I
rewarding
guess.
too. Like if you do all the work, do all the
So,
effort,
yeah,
and finally
lateral
get to
command,
taste it.
So it's a lateral
Oh,
line,
yeah.
I mean, I didn't kill the cow or anything, but they did.
forward and backward thrust.
I just reaped the rewards.
Nice.
Because
This-
like,
this
how's
is
a
why the system
whole
fails.
family supposed to eat 500 pounds of beef?
28%.
point.
We get just a
That's a
little
lot.
bit
No,
better
you
ascent rate.
tagged in. You helped.
Yeah.
And about 10% forward. I was surprised at, you know, when we did this one, I had about 20-some% lateral one way. The reason it did a beautiful thing, I think, is the current was pushing it.
Here's a question for Steve. Aside from his own kitchen, what is Steve's favorite pizza spot to go to in Boston?
Yeah.
You know,
Aside from his own kitchen.
so I don't have a favorite pizza spot in Boston. I've been to precious few, actually. Right now, so I've been remote with Boston University for about the past year, so I'm not actually in Boston.
Come up just a little faster.
But I'm living in New York City, which presents a bit of a conundrum,
Yeah, make it a little better.
both logistically and
Moment.
I don't know.
Typically we gain just a little when we stream.
Pizza-wise?
Couple meters a minute.
Yeah, like it's tough. It's tough to go between pizza and you know, sports is a very challenging environment to navigate.
Oh, yeah. So Red Sox or Yankees?
Well,
I don't want to talk about it.
it's
Okay,
obviously
okay,
Red
okay.
Sox. and
Well, so
he said
okay,
it's
I grew up in southwestern Connecticut, so we were, you know, that's kind of Yankees territory, and then somewhere in the middle of the state, you know, maybe I-91 probably separates, you know, the Red Sox territory and then the New York teams.
Interesting.
But Yankees have been doing pretty great this season. Haven't been to either game in a very long time, but the last game I went to was a Red Sox game a few years ago.
Let's go Sox.
Nice.
So I mean, yeah. Used to watch a lot more baseball, not so much anymore.
So are you like a Bills fan or a Giants fan or a Patriots fan?
Never really into football.
Never into
no.
football?
No.
The great American pastime.
no, that's supposed to be baseball.
I think that's baseball, yeah.
Yeah, it's 100%. That's baseball. That's the baseball phrase.
Baseball's boring compared to football.
Maybe it's just like nostalgia, but I feel like going to a baseball game when I was a kid was like something you could reasonably afford. These days, it's like it's worse than going to a movie theater sometimes.
How much is
you
a
know,
baseball
concessions
game?
and things.
It depends on where you're sitting.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. Like if you're by the dugouts, it's probably $50 to $100. But obviously we don't do that.